We're going to move to our public comment period. Josh Panay with the California Refuge Recycling Council, CRRC. And I have, after that, Lori Nelson, Consulting and Government Relations. Randlett Nelson and Madden.
Mr. Chairman, members of the committee, Josh Panay on behalf of the California Refuse Recycling Council, a 50-year-old council of 125 solid waste and recycling companies. We have over 50 material recovery facilities in our association membership and in the state of California. And I believe, Mr. Miller, there's probably over 100 total in the state. Number one, we wanted to just emphasize to the committee that our companies, the original scavenging companies of the state, many second and third generation and one fourth generation actually scavenging right on the trucks originally. Products that were from metal to bottles to rags. These companies that we represent, these 125 companies, work closely now with the legislation that the Speaker and you all passed last year, that council to integrate that new system within our own MRF facilities. We've supported that bill last year. We supported Mr. Huffman's architectural paint bill last year as well. Our association believes that we should focus on certain products. Specifically, we think the next product we'd commend to your attention would be batteries. I heard the discussion earlier today about batteries, and you know that Del Norte County, the Recycle to You does all batteries, but then in Santa Clara County they only do rechargeable batteries. That point was lost there. But I think the important part is that we have an infrastructure in place that was built on the vision of Byron Shear in 939, and so we'd like to use those hundreds of millions of dollars in infrastructure to try to get at some of these products in a focused approach. We also supported Ms. Brownlee's plastic bag bill last year, and we will do the same this year. And finally, I would just say, and just trying to keep it to a minute and a half, ultimately, what we see are these products that come through. But the fact of the matter is that in the waste stream, the biggest piece going to the landfill still today are the pieces of raw materials, whether it's paper, whether it's wood product. Those pieces of material add up to the biggest piece of the waste stream. And those types of things, these bigger types of things, need to be composted. These are organics. This is the biggest piece that goes into landfills today, organics. We need assistance for all of our compost facilities and those compost facilities that aren't built to combat the air districts on compost. And have the legislature look realistically at that. You can take small products, and we think some certain products, as we've said here today, need to be recycled in an EPR way. But we think you should really be looking at the biggest piece of the waste stream going into the landfills, organics. Some of that is paper product packaging, there's no doubt about it. But we should be looking at that biggest piece, helping the whole state get a better handle on composting as well. And I know that isn't your subject matter today, but I wanted to make sure you understood the biggest pieces of the waste stream. So I have the same problems with paint. I have painted my house now that I've got to take out to the center where the city does it. So with our local government partners, we 125 companies commend you to focus on certain aspects of the stream. Batteries and plastic bags, we think, would be the next piece. So I hope that helps, and we appreciate the time today.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you. Mr. Chair and members, Lori Nelson on behalf of the Clorox Company, which is headquartered in Oakland, California. And I'm here, I think, with what I think is good news, and that is that the incentives are indeed aligned, both to minimize packaging and also to promote reuse and recycling. And this is why, not only because it's the right thing to do, but because it makes business sense. If the top goal of the hierarchy is reduction, industry expertise is key. Clorox, for example, has cut their resin use by over 5 million pounds a year. 85% of their packages that house Clorox products are recyclable. 90% of U.S. product cartons have 100% recycled content. We've incorporated a lot of continuous improvements with concentrates, which reduced plastics by millions more pounds, reduced removing shrink wrap, changing out materials to reduce packaging. All of this, again, is the right thing to do, but it also makes business sense. And while we're doing this, we're still maintaining product integrity so that the product can get to your house intact and safely. Now, admittedly, I think Clorox is a great company, but I don't think that what they're doing is out of the norm. And I think as the discussions go forward, what you want to do is look at what's out there, look at the expertise of industry, look at what they're doing on the front end, look at the incentives, and then look at curbside. And does that not make sense for a majority of these products that are already reduced, that are being recycled? It's easy for the consumer, which makes it more likely to happen, and it also is cheaper to maintain. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other members of the public who'd like to testify? Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Leslie Lukash, and I've been in the solid waste management business for 14 years. I wear a couple hats. I serve on the board of directors of the California Resource Recovery Association, and I own an environmental consulting company, and I also do some work with CPSC. So I'm not sure which hat to put on, so I'll put them all on. But I just want to thank you very much for having this hearing today, and it's hard to say anything beyond what was already said today. So I thank you for this platform for everybody to come together and look and listen to all of the groups who are coming from different sides, whether it be the private industry who is working with the nonprofit industry who's working with government. And we've saw many examples today of successful EPR programs that are happening because of this communication that's happening beyond all sides. I do that in my business as well. I work with, I've set up many solid waste management plans at the local government level, but I also work with national and international corporations and nonprofits. And I do this because there is a shared responsibility in the waste management system, and we all have to be communicating with each other to make progress, and EPR is the platform to do that. So I thank you for this opportunity, and I hope California will be the leader in EPR, and I know many of us in this room are willing to help and be part of this system, and thank you.
Thank you for your remarks. That I'll close the public comment portion. I will note that there are several pieces of legislation that have been introduced in the or have been identified as EPR bills, and one is Assemblymember Mendoza's AB 1189, which is makes a technical correction on the battery bill. Majority Leader Corbett in the Senate has a battery bill, and Senator Leno has a fluorescent lamps bill, and Senator Simidian has a home-generated medical sharps bill. So there are some, and I'm sure there may be some modifications to different legislation comes in. Are there other members who would like to have a closing comments?
Well, the hour's late, but I just would like to repeat what I've heard today, and that is that it's not an either-or choice between, do nothing on the governmental level and just let the marketplace determine on the one hand, or on the other hand, it's all command and control government top-down regulation. I think that there's room for us to find the solutions that are business-friendly and are market-based as much as possible. And that's that, along with trying to decide whether the political process or a prioritization framework. Those are the two dilemmas I think that we face, the challenges we face in trying to move forward. Meanwhile, we have, if you count the many different material-specific products over the years that we've intervened with, starting with the bottles and cans, beverage containers. We're nicking away at the waste stream one material at a time. And there's an argument that we heard from the retailers that sometimes makes sense because you design the program to fit the product and the industry. But I continue to be concerned about whether or not we'll ever get to the point that we need to be in our lifetimes of really addressing a broad spectrum of materials and get to the much higher level of recycling that I think we're capable of. I think we've achieved a very admirable number that's nationally, internationally envied, but there's still a whole lot further that we can go, and I think we've squeezed the local governments about as much as we can in terms of what we can expect them to achieve, and that's part of why I think we increasingly hear the discussion about going further legislatively is that local governments have all the low, I'm mixing my metaphors, but all the low-hanging fruit has been picked, and so there's remains concentrations of materials such as commercial recycling materials that and organics that Mr. Pane mentioned, which deserve a lot of our focused attention now, that aren't necessarily don't necessarily fit the existing AB 939 local government model as well. So. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Good hearing.
Chairman Chesborough. We look forward to your continued leadership in this area. Vice Chair Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple quick comments. I want to thank all the panelists and everybody here watching for their patience. The testimony was very informative, very professional. It was something that I think we can continue to play on. And really I want to just highlight the two areas that I think we could do some follow-up on. I think we still have some unsettled business on Prop 26 and how that is going to play out. And then the issue that I brought up with DTSC and green chemistry and what their role really is in recycling and take back. And so I'm not sure we have, we'll get to those answers quickly, but I'm hoping with your cooperation we can continue to work on those areas. And lastly, I think it's just important to keep a distinguished difference between product stewardship and extended producer responsibility, that we make sure that we keep that definition between the two areas and that they don't get commingled with the same meaning and the same responsibilities. But thank you very much for doing this. Thank you, Chair Chesborough. And again, thank you all to all the people that came and traveled here to testify.
I applaud everybody's perseverance. We're adjourned.